Hello, welcome to LATR Life After Truth Radio. Today we're going to be talking about doing nothing. All right, well, maybe not doing nothing, but perhaps just doing less. Doing less for everyone else, doing less for the ideas, hopes, and dreams of those around you, and maybe about digging into what yours might be. I think it's very easy to be given your first truth and to fly with that for most of your life, to not even take a second to think about what might be your truth or underneath that societal truth. And, we got a video here, two videos of two people from rather different demographics that seem to have come to the same conclusion. So glad to see it's not just me. And with that, let's get into it.
This is the true story of how I got so sick and tired of the grind that I literally just quit and now I just do nothing. I think it kind of started probably as a kid at school, this sense of always having to achieve something and feeling you're like on this factory line, this production line of I've got to do this because that's going to lead to so and so. If I get good grades, I'll get a good job. If I get a good job, I'll get a good salary. If I get a good salary, I'll get a good house. I'll get a good partner. I'll have a good life.
The American dream, the good old white picket fence. We start them while we're young, don't we? Man, yeah, it's sad. It's sad that the Prussian school system, took over with such force, and it really did just put a lot of young minds into very productive boxes and had them think that that's the only way to be. That's what you have to do to be a productive, a valuable citizen.
And I was kind of on this treadmill path of trying to get all of this stuff. Now, the first time I kind of quit and walked away from this and seemed to have some kind of inkling that something was wrong with this way of looking at the world was in my first and last ever job.
Nice.
Now, I got this job after university and I very quickly realized it was not for me. I got
Facts.
there and I could see easily that everybody there was depressed.
See, I went to university for 3 years, 3.5 just about, and I just saw the same thing really quickly. I got an internship with the USDA, and I was working side by side with scientists and very smart and technical minds, people that knew what they were doing in their field, and for all I had known until then, that's what I wanted. That's what I wanted to do as well, and what I wanted to surround myself with. And then you get there and you see that the light had gone out in their eyes, and it was surreal for me to see these people that had what it was I was beginning to chase, and they didn't seem very happy for it. If anything, they seemed happier in their free time. They seemed happier in their lives outside of their work once they finally got to it. But it was hard to watch because you only get that a month out of the year or so when you're working that dutifully for a system like that.
The light had gone out in their eyes. They were just kind of living a lie. They were all hanging on for retirement just because this was a way to make money. I was in my 20s. I was like, there's no way I'm going to do this.
What?
And I spoke to my boss.
For another 40 years?
And my boss was in his 50s at the time, and he said, yeah, I'm just waiting until I retire so I can actually do something I enjoy.
50.
And that to me was like seeing
50.
through the Matrix for the first time. Like I completely realized that this...
It's crazy to me. It's still crazy. You'd think I've been in this world long enough. I've been working, the jobs I have long enough. I've been, lucky enough or charismatic enough to surround myself with people of that demographic, kind of my elders, I would say. And to think still that so many of them have just barely begun to enjoy their life. Just a bit insane to me, my little pea brain.
Whole 9 to 5 work career ladder was just a complete joke. So I quit my job and I started my own business. I thought that was the way. But
Natural.
very quickly, I fell onto the next treadmill. Now, for me, that treadmill was trying to get recognition from my dad. My dad was old school. He would,
See, and that's the trap, right? I had that same thought. Thankfully, I didn't run towards it at a full sprint, but I had thought after hopping out of the education system and what I was, working up towards, I thought, well, I really like this other trade I have. Maybe I should turn that into my own job. I could run this business as well as my boss does, if not better in some cases. But then I saw the overhead. I saw how much it cost to do these things, and it's like people just buy themselves another job a lot of times with these businesses that they start.
born in the 40s, didn't show any kind of love or affection really, and was very shortcoming in his praise. I don't really remember him praising me ever. I thought, well, if I do really well with my business as an entrepreneur, then maybe he'll show me that.
See, the issue there was he had a dad. See, I didn't have the dad, so I didn't have the fake, shallow relationship. I shouldn't say fake. I don't know their relationship, but the maybe like he's saying the lacking of praise, the whatever. You kind of it's there's no closure. You want to chase that your whole life and try and get that praise, but if he's not there, then there's pretty early on. You got to learn to deal with that. You got to figure out what that means for you.
Respect, that attention, he'll show me that love. And that's really what drove me. So I was just on a different treadmill. I was just doing a different type of grind. Now, at one point, I kind of woke up from that and I realized, I'm never going to get my dad's approval. It's never going to happen. So now I'll do it for myself. And that then became all about accumulating wealth. I made a lot of money, a serious amount of money with my business.
Again, natural.
But I'd not got that approval. I hadn't got that thing. I still felt like I was missing something. It just felt awkward and incomplete. I felt like, what am I trying to get? I'm always trying to get something. I'm, slaving away like 12 hours a day. I'm always planning ahead and stressing myself out and busting my guts to try and achieve stuff. But why?
For what?
So I think maybe deep down it was still to try and get my father's approval, but that quickly ended because he died rather unexpectedly. And I never heard the words from him, I love you. I never got that kind of well done from him.
And that's sad. It's not a great feeling to go down that route, I'm sure, and end up again not having that closure. So he does have his shade of what I just told about mine with the lack of a father. I don't mean to be insensitive, but R.I.P.
And at that point, everything really started to fall away. I really questioned, well, not only why am I doing all of this, what's the point? What am I trying to achieve? And who am I anyway? So I completely stepped off any kind of treadmill or production line at this point. I took a step back and I spent months and months just indoors in my house.
Hermit.
Doing nothing. Trying to understand what life was, what the world meant anymore, who I was, what I was.
The hermit card.
And at the same time as all this was going on,
Going inside of yourself, trying to figure out exactly what you are, not accepting that base level truth that you've been given on what you are and what you're supposed to do. See, he'll say it next.
I was exploring deeply spirituality and this feeling, this deep belief that what I call I, or what I'd been calling I, was not a person, was not a human, was not an individual, but was just awareness.
Yeah, it gets heavy quick. I like it. I appreciate that depth and the jump from just talking about work and the monotony to wow, it really pushed me to discover what I am, to discover what's truly going on underneath the hood. I think that's it's kind of valuable. It's not kind of, it's very valuable, but it's a kind of valuable experience that I don't think many people truly get. I don't think maybe that they get the time, the space. It looks like he has a wonderful property. I'm guessing that's his. They don't have the availability in their life to approach these things, and I've seen that. I've seen that time and time again with the people that folk in our group might call sheep. That whole concept of the sleepers. I don't think that's quite fair. I also don't think it's unfair, but I like to try and stay somewhere in the middle where I just see how hard it is. I see and I recognize how difficult it is to play by the rules, the default rules that are given when you get into the society. When you're raised into it, but once you move into it, you finally step into adulthood without any sort of mentor, without any sort of rites of passage or ritual. We just are thrust into this world, and a lot of people struggle to make ends meet, more or less have enough comfort to think about what their spirit might actually be and what it might actually want underneath all of the economic pressure. So kudos to him for getting to that point.
That this what I called I, who was seeking to fulfill itself, seeking to get more financial gain, to get more achievement, and even seeking spiritual awakening or enlightenment. I realized that I didn't exist in the way that I thought it used to. So these months and months that I took out away from life, not interacting with people, not engaging, not producing anything, not helping anybody, not really doing anything, put me in this deep depression.
I can very much relate. It was probably exactly after I hopped out of school. That was the time when I was maybe 22, 23, and I started to see exactly what he saw. That same first junction that he said when he started his business, that was when I saw and I thought, my gosh, I this is gross. This is so hard to stomach, so difficult to fully conceptualize, and that it hurts to see people subconsciously, like invisibly going through this pain, putting themselves into these painful cycles. I spent a good part of that next year finally being done with school, with being taught and being told and given truth. I probably spent that solid next full year just resting and just enjoying not having to get up every morning and go to rush to class through the rain or the snow and to sit through a boring lecture that I've already read and learned. I already know the concept. I get what we're here to do, but I look around and I see all of these other vapid faces and phones lit up and games or ebooks or whatever on laptop screens in this lecture, and it's like, what are we doing here? It's so much to deal with for so long that I think we do as folks that are spiritual people that wake up to what we truly are. It is exhausting and it requires this hermitude, kind of time away from everyone, to be able to fully distill what just happened to us and to crystallize some sort of message and lesson out of what that all meant. Why did I experience so much turmoil and pressure and compression to be here where I'm at now, being seen as the outcast or the hermit. Why am I here? Why is this? It's interesting, which that brings up something I wanted to say a second ago, that this is his third truth. And I've heard from a man on a podcast, favorite podcast of mine, the Higher Side Chats. Definitely check Greg Carlwood out if you haven't already heard of his stuff. Um, I'll just leave it at that. Go take a look. A guest of his had mentioned that it takes at least three breaks of truth, three shatterings of what you believed and what your lifestyle was for you to actually open up to what might truly be, how this all might actually work. So if we take his first one, at college or whatever, that early life stage where he's a young man and sees, oh, I don't want to be here for 40 years being miserable like these guys around me. No way. That's crash one. And then starts his business and acquires a bunch of wealth and thinks that he'll finally be able to make his father proud and he'll be able to achieve that emotional closure. But then he dies and never gets it. And that pushes into past truth two into truth three, where he's finally now realizing, oh my gosh, I might not be me. I might be taking this all far too personally. I might be hanging myself up to dry, and to no fault of his own. I think we all are on this path together. We are all at one stage or another. Some of us are further down the path than others, and that's not right or wrong. It just is who we are, and it is where we're at. So I again want to congratulate this man for finally seeing it and for being able to enjoy this next phase of his, because I feel very lucky to have crossed that bridge earlier in life. It's given me a different set of hurdles and a different set of challenges, and it came at its own cost, socially, lifestyle costs, whatever. But I wouldn't be who I was at this moment, and I wouldn't have had all the wonderful experiences I've had to craft this perspective now if I hadn't have had that. So good to him, man. Good on him, because it's, I think, especially hard later in life. I think it gets harder and harder. That's what we call the midlife depression. What do we call that? You know what I'm talking about, where old folk wake up and all of a sudden they're like, holy shit, what have I been doing? Oh my god, I need to change things. I need to adjust my life. I think that's a whole nother astrological point. We could get into that being your, what is it, your third Saturn return, your third massive, maybe it's your second, it's second or third. It's your, it's another point of Saturn transitioning over yourself, where it's really requiring you to look at what you've built up. Look at your systems, look at your rules and your beliefs. Are you abiding by them? Are you doing what you need to be doing for yourself? Have you passed your own test? That's what I feel like that midlife crisis is it's the moment when you are put to the grindstone, or put to the just sat down in school at your desk and you're given your test to see if you got enough points to move on, if you got a high enough grade to go to the next class. And some people see that they just barely didn't make it, or they feel that they don't feel ready and they don't know why. And so I think if you hit those points, that's when, it's almost like you get bumped into a remedial class. You get bumped into some sort of review, like, okay, we got to catch you up. Let's get you back on track. If you're not capable of having this realization by yourself. That's just my thought. Let's get back to it.
And then I remember watching a video interview with Jim Carrey. And he said, when you're depressed, it's because what the world is telling you, or life is showing you, that you need deep rest.
I love this. I have heard that before, and that is great. And I think the play on words is very important. I think, like, if you haven't heard, words are magic, and you create your own life, your own existence through the words you use and through what you put into the world around you. And just like with the weekend, if you work all week so that you can get off on Saturday and Sunday and be weekend, that's not what we should be doing. We shouldn't be weakened by what we choose to do with most of our week. Um, we shouldn't be we shouldn't be feeling that dazed from going to something that's supposed to produce livelihood for us, supposed to produce money that we can make our lives better with. I don't think that's the way it should be. And people like Jim Carrey, he's kind of a hot topic, a touchy subject. I grew up on Jim, and I love so much of what he does. And then you grow up and you kind of have more of an esoteric understanding on what's happening in these echelons of society, and you see what's happened to him over the past few years. I think he got really close, man. He got really close to the truth. Probably got too close, like Icarus. He got too close to the sun, and he got burnt. He got tore down. That's probably a discussion for a totally different video. But deep rest. If you are depressed, your body's probably asking for it.
You're not depressed. You need deep rest. And he spoke about this idea that you need to rest from the person you believed yourself to be. That it's the universe's way of saying you need to take a break from trying to uphold that individual, from trying to pretend that that's who you are. And at that point, I was just sick and tired of pretending to be that individual, pretending to have to do all of this stuff, pretending that I could even make a difference. But initially, when there was still that connection to the little me, it felt hurt. It felt nihilistic, like completely pointless. What's the point anymore? But then I realized I could see it both ways. The bad news is you can't do anything. But the good news is you don't have to do anything.
Good news, there's nothing to do. That was such a great realization for me. What a great moment in life to get out of school and to be smart. I mean, I was told by everyone my whole life that I was very intelligent. You're going to do great things. You're going to be this. You're going to be a doctor. You're going to be an engineer. Or you could do anything you want. When you're that well off, that great and smart, we're going to go take these trips and to congratulate you for graduating. I'm going to take you on a trip to Africa. That was verbatim from my late grandmother, rest in peace. But that never happened. We never went. And, I didn't become a doctor or whatever. But I worked past a lot of these truths that were given to me. And at the end of it all, to finally melt back into myself, my own shape, my own spiritual form, and to feel content, just so happy with just being. I was doing a lot of hiking, a lot of rock climbing, and some other hippie stuff, slacklining and whatever, that it just felt good to exist and to not have some big dire purpose that I had to toil away for so that 30, 40 years out, I could be happy finally. It's crazy.
And I felt for a time that I would literally sit around for the rest of my days until this body withered away and died. I couldn't see how I would ever be motivated, or this entity, this thing that was here, would ever be moved again to do anything.
Yeah, it's natural.
But then, without explanation and without reason, several months later, it was as though I was inflated again, like those inflatable, tall, waving arm figures that you see outside a garage forecourt.
Which is so funny he says that, because that was actually a really big sink for me when I first was watching this, because so many times in my life I've had that exact metaphor in my mind, that I felt enlivened, I felt giddy with life, and I felt that wiggle that those guys have. And I remember that started a joke in my mind that one year for Halloween I wanted to be one of those guys. But then I learned about Halloween and all of these holidays and what they really were, and then I decided maybe I'd stop participating in these in the ways that I have been. Again, another topic for another time.
Thing became animated inside me. There was no cause. There was no future plan. There was no goal or vision. There wasn't even an action or a series of things that happened. It just was an energy that was experienced by nobody. And people often ask, well, how do you get out of bed in the morning? What motivates you? What makes you rise up in the morning and get out of bed? It just happens.
I just do. I just do. I was talking with a buddy about this the other day, how it's that idea of people being depressed, people being very sunken in and taken away by these feelings. I mean, I get it. I am guilty. I've been there. I've been depressed. I've needed deep rest. I've had to turn off for a while. But it is amazing that once you finally decide to allow it, your energy will come back. You'll just be done being upset. And maybe that's not true. Maybe you'll still be upset. I know there's still things that I'm still hurt about, but I don't demand the rest from myself like I used to. I don't need that amount of turning off. And I think actually after having some of those heavier moments of deep rest, I'm actually a little afraid of them. I'm like nervous to sink back into those because I know how easy it is. I know how comfortable, dare I say. I'm gonna piss off some folk maybe by saying that, but I know how comfortable that I was in some of these depressions. I know that it was easy to sit in that and to wallow and to think, oh, things just happened to me, and oh, here we go again. An old motto that'll still creep up every once in a while, thankfully in much less heavy tones or whatever. It would come up and it would be, when it rains, it pours. Oh. It's just disgusting. Just so done thinking like that and feeling like that.
So while on the surface it may look as if there is doing taking place, as if there is waking up occurring, as if there is creation of videos happening, as if there is speaking happening, there is only happenings to nobody. There is only all that there is, all that there ising with itself.
Boom. Yeah, nice. Sunyanow.com. Go check him out if you're interested.
Ambition is overrated.
This is Gia.
What do I mean by this? Well,
Her
I'm
stuff
nearly
is
30 and
stuff's a little quieter. Let me turn the video file up a little bit. God, and I really hope you can't hear all my coffee gulps and slurps, but man, I try and do these in one take after editing these videos down a little bit. So if we can hear a couple gulps and slurps, you might just be getting them. I might not go back through and redo it because honestly, I'm on a timeline. I can only really do these recordings when there's no one else home because my current situation is that it's kind of loud. And even my dynamic mic will still pick up some of the stuff that's happening because I literally live on one of the hot spots of the house, one of the loudest spots of the house. Is what it is. But let me make sure Gia's turned up. Let's keep going.
I have realised in the past couple of months to a year that I've been lied to this whole time. What do I mean by that? I mean, ambition
What do you mean?
is something we're told is super important, something you always have to strive for. Like, you always have to be going towards something. And don't get me wrong, having goals is great. It's great to be able to, like, hit something and you're proud of yourself. Like, that's a really good thing to have. But ambition is so glorified by society, where it's like, we live in the age of, like, side hustles and, like, the more productive you are, the more successful you're seen to be. It just doesn't really stop though, so you're constantly going.
Right, and some of that's by design. Let's be real. I'd say most of it's by design. But to her point, it's very difficult once you get moving on that upward trajectory. Yeah, I almost said trajection. That's not right. It's really hard to get your scope back. It's almost like it's a parabolic kind of experience where you start out with not much, if it's experience or money or if it's whatever, and you want more and more, and so you're working harder and harder to get more and more, and by the time you get up there you can't see how far you've come almost, and you can't really get an idea of what being back down there would be. It's difficult, but I did want to throw in that side hustle culture is almost more out of necessity than a virtue, I think, at the moment. But it is becoming more and more virtuous, definitely.
And you don't really get any time to like sit and reflect about where you're actually going. You're just accumulating stuff on the way. And it's great to hit your goals, but when does it end? I've never really understood this constant need to overwork myself to chase something. Like that to me is just, it's always ended in burnout. And I spent the majority of my 20s trying to play catch up with everyone else, trying to do what they did and trying to strive for what they strove for. But all that did was make me extremely anxious, very depressed, and just I got to a point where I was absolutely burnt out and I just couldn't do it anymore. I had to reflect and actually ask myself, what was it I actually wanted? And what would actually make me happy in life? I've always been told I was too quiet or too shy, or I wasn't aiming high enough, or I just, like, I always felt like I had to compete with other people, but the competition didn't make any sense to me. I didn't know why I was competing with people. I had enough money. I worked enough to be able to, live frugally and
Doesn't matter.
content, like very content, very happy, very.
It's not enough.
I didn't need excess. I wasn't constantly chasing the next big thing. I was just happy with what I had. And
She said it too, by the way, the rest and how valuable it is that people will just chase these things, chase them until burnout. And I mean, it, like she said, it's good to have a goal. I have goals. I have things I want to get done, but also I take myself a lot less personally and a lot less seriously anymore. So I have things I want to get done. Yeah, maybe I could tighten up a little bit and have stricter deadlines for some things, but when I know that I have a certain amount of time to have something done, doesn't need to be done right this second, I want to work towards it. But if I don't on a day, if I just feel like my time is going to be better spent somewhere else, or if I'm not in a mental space, emotional space to do it, if I'm thinking about building this room out there in the garage. One day I was just frustrated. I did not wake up feeling very level. That whole day felt very spiky. I didn't feel super proficient, let's put it, proficient or efficient, both. And I was like, this is not the day to go start ripping down plywood and to try and get, anything done in my construction side of life, my projects in that way. This is just not the time for it. I'm going to make stuff worse. I'm just trying to read the room. And if I took myself any more personally, I might be there saying, well, you're just being lazy, or you just need to man up and gruff through it. And I've had so much of that in my life that I am not giving it to myself.
And if I needed, as we all do, you need money to survive. If I need more money, I'd just go out and get like
Get a job.
a side hustle or something part time, just to keep that income, coming in enough to be able to
Go find money.
support my frugal and down to earth lifestyle. I never understood when people would, call me lazy or call me, not ambitious enough, and it started getting to me, and I just started questioning, why do they feel the need to project that onto me? And
Like, bro, do you see all of the things that I try to do in my life? I know most of you guys don't, and you guys don't really know me yet. I put some stuff on here, but I'm slowly building. But it's like, for people with those bits of feedback, let's call it, you're just not trying hard enough, bro. There's so much more you could be doing. You're just lazy, or you're just half-assing your life. It's like, dude, I'm learning so many new skills all at once. I'm learning to like video edit. I'm learning to frame a a recording studio. I've already learned in the past how to do my, agriculture stuff and grow in a garden and whatever. But I'm like working on that in between building this room and trying to create content and produce things in between trying to cook for a family, and try to have a functioning relationship and trying to take care of a pet, which is not something I do. So that's another learn, right? And so it's like people just don't see all of these layers in your life, and they're definitely not going to see the value you see in them because it's not their life. So I don't even blame them for that, but it's just like maybe just butt out. Maybe worry about your own life. If you don't think I'm productive enough, maybe go be more productive in your own life, and don't worry about my productivity.
I realised it has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with how they are viewing themselves and
Yes.
how they show up in society and the expectations they place on themselves. As soon as I realised that, I was able to accept myself more and realise that I'm genuinely quite a happy person. Like, I never used to be when I was constantly burning myself out for reasons I can't even explain why I was doing it. Just to
Cheers,
fit in
yeah.
with people. And, when people ask you, what do you do? And, like, it's the first question people ask. It's like, what do you do?
You love
And,
it.
I'd have to show up to events and just be like, oh, at the moment, I'm just living off savings and passive income and, just... I'm very happy. And
Yeah, you gotta have a better answer than that for these people, for sure. Yeah, you can't tell people that you're just living off passive income. They're gonna be like, no, no, you don't get to do that. I play by the system. I play by rules. You gotta play by the rules too. And the rule is that you have a 9 to 5 or at least a part-time job. And if that's the case, then the rule is that you need to want to work more, that's not enough for you. Passive income is definitely not what someone who asks, what do you do, wants to hear. Definitely not.
they just couldn't understand that. It's like, well, yeah, but like, what are you working towards? Like, what career do you want to be in? And it's all these questions where it's like,
None? What?
it's trying to explain to people that that's not how my brain works. Like, I don't understand it. Like, I genuinely never have. And maybe like that's because of my upbringing as well. Like, my family are very creative types, musicians, and the emphasis of, I guess, hard work wasn't really instilled in my family.
Yeah, generally not the corporate ladder type, the musicians.
Like, it was more so find something you're passionate about and like go after that and put all your energy into the thing you're passionate about.
Great.
Which was a very good message to have growing up. But in society, that's seen as wrong. Like, what's expected is you work incredibly hard and you get a couple of holidays a year and you just work your ass off to buy the bigger house, more things, like just upgrade, upgrade, upgrade. And it just, to me, just seems like a scam. You're working till you're, 65, 70, and then oftentimes, there are health issues that come after that age. You can't fully...
Yeah, come work and go pay into the 401k system so you can keep your grandpa's retirement checks afloat. I mean, and hey, I don't want your grandpa to be out of a check either, but if I choose to not participate in that system because of the flaws that I see in it and that I choose, and because of my risk assessment, I decide to not partake, that doesn't make any less of us. That's not a faux pas on her. It's not a bad thing on me. It's just a choice I've made.
Enjoy the wealth you've built up over that time, because now there's all these issues that are going wrong. The youthful years of your life you've just spent accumulating for this future retirement, and it just seems like you just get a couple of years to enjoy that. I never understood that, and being told that all the time, that was the expectation, that was the standard, I just questioned it, and I just felt
Good.
almost wrong for questioning it. It just didn't make sense to me though, and it still doesn't make sense to me. And it can be hurtful when people go, you're not ambitious enough, and it's just like, well, I'm content. Like, that is my baseline, is contentment. I'm a very content person. I don't need more things. I don't need more stuff. I don't
Good for
need
you.
more money. I need what I need, and anything over that is just an excess. And every time someone has said to me, you need to be more ambitious, you need to be, doing this, I look at them and go, but you're not happy. And they're not. They're incredibly stressed. They're often depressed. overworked and constantly needing something to fill in any spare time, because spare time to them is unproductive, and that's being lazy, and they can't have that time to themselves because they have to always be bettering and improving, and just it's exhausting.
It
It's
is.
exhausting to watch them and exhausting to
It's
be around them because you're being judged for your contentment.
it's so tiring. It is very, very tiring for people like us to participate in that kind of social engagement anymore. And it's a big part of why, after my hermitude, I really didn't choose to re enter many social circles. I didn't need it. It wasn't something that was important to me anymore because I saw that every time I did need that and move towards a different group of friends or people that I might be able to socialize with, after a week's worth of being alone and reading and studying or playing music, whatever was my thing, it was very jarring. It was noticeable how different we saw the world and how different we reacted to things in our lives. Hardships specifically, that was something I noticed, was seeing how people experience hardships. Um, it was it was telling because I think when you take yourself that personal, these hardships can really manifest as something that are life ending, and it's an easy victimizer and an easy way to put maybe blame on someone else. Because to me, if you're willing to put blame on someone else like that for maybe bad feelings in your own life, that could have resulted from them. I understand, but to put it all onto them or back onto them, it's just a very one-sided way to see things, and they can do something that's not okay without you needing to condemn them for that. We got a lot of hurt people out there, man. Got a lot of sick people, so we can't keep everyone to the highest standards that we hold ourselves to. I guess I'll just put it that way. I don't try to hold everyone to my standards, except for the people closest to me. If you're allowed in that ring, that within that vicinity, I do kind of require a certain amount of high level energy. I do.
They can't understand why you wouldn't be in constant motion chasing something. But if you already are content with what you have and you're happy with that and you're happy with your place in life, like I don't see anything wrong with that. Like, of course, it's always good to have something that you're looking forward to, something that you're working towards, but are you passionate about it? Is it something that's actually intrinsically meaningful and valuable to you? Or
Facts.
when you actually stop and question everything, you realize a lot of things don't make sense in today's society. I don't want to work a 9 to 5 for the next 35 years. Like,
And that's life after truth. You stop to actually take a second and look at how all these things work and really question what's going on and why your tax dollars are doing what they're doing. It's real hard to keep participating in that. It's real hard. That's why I've tried my very best to create a comfortable life for myself after the outset of that truth, after needing a truth.
that to me is, what's the point? I have what I need right now. And of course, like, I'll supplement that from time to time when I need to, and I need to, and it's this whole thing of like leisure and downtime is something that you have to earn. You have to earn time to recoup and recharge, and that's wrong.
Yep.
Like, that should be like massively prioritized.
So wrong.
Downtime is so needed. Recharge time is needed. You need to be able to do like leisurely things that you enjoy and that make you feel whole and like warm inside and just happy.
Deep
Because
rest.
that will then give you the energy and the motivation to go back out there and face each day with a more positive attitude. If you're constantly burning the candle at both ends, like, where the hell are you meant to go from that point? You're just going to get sick, you're going to get tired, you're going to get depressed, stressed, real relationships will suffer, you will suffer. It's just, it doesn't end.
No, it does not. Great job, Gia. And great job, Sonya? I'll have to check. Don't quote me on that right now. But really, phenomenal videos. I think it's an awesome concept for people to chew on right now because it's very easy to get sucked into this production culture. I can see it probably for content creators, right? As I'm getting into this kind of stuff, I feel it. It's dragging me out of certain comfortable ways of life where, I want to hustle and I want to put in the hours and work. And this is a goal of mine. I do want to achieve this. I do want to make this something that is a regular part of my life. So I treat it that way. But it is not a second self. It's not something that if I don't make a video every week, I'm not going to kick myself. Does that mean I don't want to get to a point where I do make a video a week? Of course not. I would love to be that regular and to be that productive. But that productivity is not going to come at the cost of my health and at the cost of the other things in my life at the moment. Because right now, like, first priority is to get that room built so that I can do this more regularly. It's like you got to have your ducks in a row so that you can actually functionally do the thing you want to do. If you don't feel like you can take vacations enough, if you don't feel like you have enough at the end of the month to do what you want to do, whatever, that's what you have to do is start whittling back and find out what is stopping me from having the thing I would like to achieve. Is it my own mindset? Is it my current job? Is it lack of a certain resource? And once you figure that out, then you go acquire change. If it's the job, that's hard. I get it. We're in a tough market for that. I'm not saying all these answers are going to be easy. My answer is not easy. I don't have a very stable or well-designed space to do the thing that I want to do. So what does that mean? I have to build it, I guess. It's not quite the easiest answer in the world, but it is something that I think all of us could use a bit more practice with. So let's just let's give it a thought. Do less. That doesn't mean do nothing. That doesn't mean sit around all day and play phone games. That doesn't mean to doom scroll through Instagram and watch YouTube videos on loop. I mean, please watch this one. Please watch my stuff. But no, I'm just saying there are many ways for us to achieve what we want to get to, and it might not always be plowing yourself into the ground. It might sometimes mean that you need to take a second. You need to back up and give yourself some deep rest and perhaps reassess what it means for you to truly be successful. So I appreciate it. If you really did stay here this whole talk and made it to the end, thank you. It means a lot. It's a great time here. I'm really enjoying having these conversations, and I spend most of my week thinking about what I could bring to the table because I do have a lot of thoughts. I think I have a very unique perspective and a unique lifestyle that's given me the opportunity to develop some of these. So despite how long some of this might turn out, I didn't really want this to be an hour-long video, but it did contain two different content creators that were talking on the same subject. So I figured it was well worth the shot here. So anyway, thanks a lot. I'm going to go pet my cat and eat lunch. Oh, and until then, later.